Many of us said that our season starts with Fulham at home. Well, now it's here. I hope you're sitting comfortably. This is Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. This is our 10th season following the ups and downs of being an Ipswich Town supporter. This is the Prematch Show looking ahead to Fulham at home. After the glamour of Liverpool and Manchester City, it's now on to the nitty-gritty of Fulham. My name is Mikey Penty-Smith. I'm standing in for Rich Woodward once again, but keeping his place in the starting lineup is Mr. Seb Brown. How are you, mate?
Hello, mate. I am good, thank you. Looking forward to this one. And I don't know about you, I'm quite looking forward to the window being closed tomorrow night. I'm finding it quite exhausting the last few days. So not only have we got Fulham to discuss, we've got a bit of transfers to talk about, AFC Wimbledon. So it should be quite a busy show.
Do you think we're getting transfer fatigue a little bit, Seb? We
I
wanted transfers,
so.
but this is too many.
I think so, yeah. I saw Ben did a video earlier asking if we'd signed too many people. It's not as bad as the summer of 2021 when it was that 19, I think, through the door, wasn't it? With sort of culminating with Morsey very, very late on deadline day. So it's not been that bad, but I'm just getting frustrated with things kind of falling through. And, you know, when you're in League One and to a lesser degree the Championship, you don't really worry about other clubs coming in and nicking the players off you, do you? Because you're kind of a big fish. But this year, obviously, we've seen some deals fall through. We'll discuss Armando Broja in a minute. Looks like that one's off the table. And yeah, just get the window closed tomorrow night at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m., whatever it is. And at least then we'll know where we stand.
Yeah, and Pork Smith in the chat says, gel, baby, gel. Yeah, that's what we need to do over the next few weeks, isn't it? And Streaky94 is live from Carrot Road. And that isn't a scandal. That's because Ipswich women are playing away at Norwich this evening, Seb. And your good friend and mine, Rich Woodward, is in attendance, which is why he's not doing the pre-match show again. Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah, he's gone up there, hasn't he, for the away game? And yeah, you're now overtaking him in appearances so far this season. So you'll have to fight it out between you for Brighton away in 2 weeks' time and see who's going to take that one on.
Excellent, and hopefully, when you're doing your predicted lineup for the pre-match pod next week, you'll accidentally say Mikey Penty-Smith rather than Rich Woodward. Not that you ever do anything like that, Rich. Seb, even wait, it actually didn't mean to do that. That's great. Seb, let's talk about transfers, but with the caveat that there's going to be a transfer special tomorrow night with Joe and Craig. But there's been a new player in the door, and another big player has said, well, we found out that he isn't coming to Ipswich, and that's Armando Broja. That Willie won't he deal is now dead in the water. That one isn't happening. But since we were last on air, there is another new signing.
Yeah, so we'll start with Broja. That's kind of over the weekend. It was meant to be done, wasn't it, last Thursday? And we kind of figured he might be in the squad for City away. And there were rumours. He didn't get announced, and things kind of went on about the medical, and something had been unearthed that caused the deal to be put into doubt. And then it's kind of dragged on for a few days. And some tweets here and there saying it might be resurrected, but TWTD, Phil tonight, has reported that one is off. I presume it's based on the medical and the inability to renegotiate the obligation. So I assume by the fact we've tried to keep it going for so long, he was very much target A, and I presume now they'll be working on B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, whatever you want to call it, for the backup options. We've seen a few names released in recent days, haven't we? Lyle Foster from Burnley, Kevin Denke from Cercle Bruges, and Osawan Edouard from Crystal Palace. Probably a player you know quite well, I assume, if they get Eddie Nketiah. So it's one of those where we are waiting possibly for a domino to fall to trigger a series of further moves. And we know somebody will be coming into the club tomorrow before 10 p.m. Well, hopefully before 10 p.m. for that's number 9 slot. But unfortunately, yeah, it's not going to be Broja. But we have signed a winger. Ogbene has joined from 8 million quid, wasn't it, from Luton, right winger, very, very quick. We saw the kind of top 10 speeds in the Premier League last season, and both he and Dara O'Shea both featured on that list. So it would suggest maybe Wes Burns' injury might be slightly more serious than initially expected. Maybe he's out for months rather than weeks. And that role in a Kieran McKenna side. We've said it so many times how crucial that role is. We saw Jackson play there with his searing pace, and I guess the plan is for Ogbene to kind of make that spot his own for the next few weeks and do what Burns does in terms of, win balls in the air, provide an outlet, stay high, stay wide, and cause left backs trouble with his pace. So great to get one in, but we do need a number 9, don't we?
We do. How confident are you that that's going to happen, either before or during tomorrow night's show?
Well, I think we'll get somebody. I'd imagine the fact we've been linked with so many names recently means things are clearly going on. No smoke without fire, etc. So we will get somebody. Could it be a completely left field signing that no one has any knowledge of? Potentially. Phil kind of intimated in the TWTD report that there were a few names which hadn't been made public yet. So we might find it someone completely out of the blue. Hopefully, it'll go live it'll be announced just before the guys go live tomorrow night, and they can react in real time to it. But trust them, trust Ashton, trust the data dashboard, and let's see who they can get across the line.
And are we any the wiser as to who's going out, Seb, at this stage? These are the sort of players that we've listed: George Edmondson, Marcus Harness, Jack Taylor, Ali Al-Hamadi, and Freddie Ladapo. Freddie Ladapo has deleted all of his Instagram pictures, and he wasn't there last night, whereas George Edmondson was, despite not being in the squad. Who do you expect to go out?
Yeah, I think Freddie, obviously, he'll be deregistered. We need to deregister 3 or 4, I think, or move them on, don't we, to get our squad kind of in line with the 25 registration numbers. So Freddie, presumably, if he doesn't go, it'll be a mutual consent FC kind of offering. I presume if a number 9 comes in, then Ali Al-Hamadi might go and join a championship side on loan for the season with the usual recall option in January. Or if we don't get a 9, I think we will. If we don't get a 9 in, he'll have to hang around and provide backup to Lap while Hurst is still getting back up to full fitness. Jack Taylor, I mean, we'll discuss Wimbledon in a minute. I guess you've got an issue now that some of these players on the fringes might be looking at this now thinking, I'm not going to get a start now until the FA Cup third round weekend in early January. So he might be one that maybe looks to move on. Marcus Harness, his flexibility, does that give him probably an advantage over the rest? The fact he can play in certainly 2 of the 3 roles behind the striker, and he can kind of do a job on the right if need be. And I kind of assumed last week at the Etihad, when George Edmondson came on for Twan Zabi with a few minutes to go, boyhood club, kind of, he can now say he's made his Premier League debut at the side he supports. I kind of figured that was the sign for a parting of the ways. He was the pre-match graphic for Wimbledon, wasn't he? But then wasn't involved. So I would assume that one is now fairly likely because he must be 6th choice now in the pecking order for centre-back. So I'd say he's an absolute definite. Freddie's a definite. And then I guess question marks, maybe 2 of Harness, Taylor and Al-Hamadi will move on depending on who we can get through the door.
There'll be plenty more of this chat tomorrow night, I'm sure, and hopefully some of it will be a little bit clearer as well. As it's going to be crazy tomorrow, isn't it? There's going to be so many people moving in all directions. You mentioned it there, AFC Wimbledon. So 2024 has been the best year of my adult life supporting Ipswich Town, but I've seen us be knocked out of the FA Cup by Maidstone and AFC Wimbledon in the Carabao Cup now as well. I made the journey to Earlsfield last night, and it wasn't great, but the caveat is, Seb, that we had 6 debutants, and if we played like a team of strangers, it's because largely a lot of them are strangers.
Yeah, that's the obvious caveat issue, isn't it? I thought we were okay for the first 15, 20 minutes, scored an early goal through Al-Hamadi, and I thought after that we kind of... I think somebody put in Telegram saying you can tell these players are a level up because they can kind of slot into the existing systems and it just looks effortless. And for 15 minutes, it kind of did. And I thought this will be pretty professional. We'll probably run out 2 or 3-0 winners. And then we got out of jail with a disallowed goal. You were there, and it's just 2 rubbish bits of defending from set pieces, which is strange given that Cameron Burgess was back in the side, given how his head has pretty much been a magnet for any ball into the box for the last 2 years or so. He kind of gets beaten twice. So what was your thoughts on it from a kind of overall perspective, and also the goals we conceded? They weren't great, were they?
They weren't great, and it was one of those games where it felt like we were going to concede every time they had a set piece. The number 4, his name escapes me. Hopefully someone will pop up with his name in the chat for Wimbledon. He gave us problems with his set pieces in the FA Cup tie in January, and he really does whip the ball in at pace. But yeah, Burgess and O'Shea sort of defending zonally, but yeah, just not getting first contact. But Burgess, I wouldn't say he was being bullied. The forward for Wimbledon was just kept lumping into him before the ball got up into the air. So Burgess was getting fouled, but he was struggling to kind of get to grips with it, because when he wasn't being fouled, he was sort of on his heels a little bit as well, and he really struggled there, really. And yeah, there was just too many. So somebody's come up here in the chat, Neil Wilmore, tightest ever shorts for their centre back. Yes. Then I think the number 31, just a ridiculous pair of shorts, worse than the ones I had to wear on my stag do potentially. And then Jack Clark with the baggiest pair of shorts you've possibly ever seen as well, which was quite amusing. But yeah, it was difficult for those players. A brand new central midfield, so much quality in there, but Phillips and Kuyusti just couldn't really get things going. And we didn't see in the first half any of the real patterns. But one shining light, his final product wasn't great in the last 20 minutes of the game, but Connor Townsend was very solid at left back, very athletic, won his headers, solid in possession. Clark looked dangerous at times. I think he's going to be an absolute star, but aside from that, not too many positives to take. And hopefully this dodgy defending and set pieces isn't going to be something that leaks into the league games as well.
Kuyuste looked good on I watched it on the Sky Plus thing. Kuyuste looked good for kind of the first half an hour or so. He kind of, was picking up in the right places, put a few challenges in. How did he did he drop off like the rest of the team? I'm presuming that's what happened to him in the kind of the second half.
I thought he did. So the away end at Wimbledon, you don't get a great view, especially at the other end of the pitch. I didn't notice Kuyusti an awful lot, to be honest. And he looks very languid and looks very chilled in possession, but I think they were both sort of struggling and were kind of getting overrun at times as well. So it's very difficult to judge him against that opposition. But also, Kuyusti was playing alongside Calvin Phillips. Let's face it, it's unlikely that either of them will be playing without Sam Morsey in the next few weeks. The number 4 was Jake Reeves. Jeremy Watt says, I think Jake Reeves, he quite an interesting night. He had 2 assists, missed a penalty in the shootout, and then next to pint of Stella in double quick time as soon as the game finished. But yeah, a game, didn't really learn an awful lot from it. I think Ogbene struggled to get into it. Ben Johnson didn't have a great game again. And I actually think that there might be a case for Luongo getting another start against Fulham on Saturday, because neither of those midfielders particularly stepped up, although it is just the Carabao Cup.
And do you think we've got a bit of an issue? I said earlier, you're talking about the likes of the fringe players. Do you now think the fact that there's no cup games now until the first weekend of January, do you think some of this squad now, I mean, it's frustrating to go out, of course it is, but from a operations logistical point of view, you've kind of lost this chance now to keep people ticking over, to make sure everyone's got a game every 3 or 4 weeks, and to make sure match sharpness is there. That might be a bit of an issue, mightn't it?
Exactly that, and we actually had a bit of a run in the Carabao Cup last season, didn't we? We won at Reading, and we beat Wolves, and then we played Fulham, ironically, didn't we? And that gave players like Jack Taylor and Amari Hutchinson chances to get into that first team 11, really get up to speed. And the one player that wasn't able to do that was Dane Scarlett, because he was cup tied, and then he never really got a look in. So yeah, it's frustrating to be knocked out, and a little bit embarrassing being knocked out by lower league opposition. But the biggest problem is, like you say, we now don't have those matches to get players up to speed. They're like high quality reserve games in a way, aren't they? And against opposition that would likely get better and better as you go on, and then it becomes more of a hybrid team. But yeah, really problematic, I think, to be knocked out at this early stage and not have those games for the likes of Calvin Phillips to get up to speed.
Yeah, frustrating, isn't it? Not just the defeat, but that lack of opportunity now for some of the squad to keep ticking over. Hopefully it won't come and bite us further down the line, but it is what it is. Let's face it, it wouldn't be Ipswich Town without an early exit to a lower league side in a cup, would it? Some remnants of the banter era are still well and truly alive, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I captioned it on my Instagram. We've got our Ipswich back last night, because that felt like the Ipswich that I knew. Yeah, Irvin Flaherty says would have had a decent game next round. It's very true. It was a missed opportunity, wasn't it?
Was it Newcastle?
Get another game. I actually didn't check
I think it was Newcastle at home. So it would have been Newcastle.
That would have been nice.
Portman Road. Oh well.
Yeah. You mentioned the banter era, Seb. Feels unfair to throw him in the banter era, but he was here for a lot of it, to be fair. Bartosz Bialkowski has retired. He made 177 starts for Ipswich Town and won the Player of the Season award 3 times. By all accounts, a fantastic goalkeeper for Ipswich and a brilliant human being as well.
Yeah, lovely, lovely guy, wasn't he, by all accounts, and so important for us, keeping us kind of competitive under Mick in the top half of the championship when all the funding was being cut and the playing squad was kind of, being underfunded for so many years. And yeah, he's called time on his career. Get quite a lot of it. I think it became quite obvious towards the end of last season when he wasn't kind of getting in the Millwall side, and he posted a lot of pictures on. I think he's built a house in Spain, judging from his Instagram. He seems to have spent most of the summer out there. So as soon as you see him not coming back for pre-season, you're kind of thinking, right, maybe he's going to hang up his boots, and that's what he's done. And yeah, a fantastic servant for us. Won those 3 Player of the Years, which I guess sums up where we were as a club at that time when your goalie wins Player of the Year 3 years on the bounce. Incredible shot stopper. I mean, so many times he would win us points on his own, and yeah, wish him all the best for retirement. An absolutely top class goalkeeper, and always did his best in a difficult period for the club.
And has he hung up his boots, Seb, or do you hang up your gloves when you're a goalkeeper if we're being pedantic?
Of course, it's your gloves, isn't it? Yeah, well done.
See,
well done for correcting me.
I am standing in for Rich tonight, and he has told me I must correct you at every possible opportunity in every juncture. So there you go. There's the number one correction for you. Rich, as we mentioned, is watching ITFC Women tonight. They're in the FAWNL Cup. They're off to newly promoted Exeter on Sunday, who, like Town, have a 100% start to the season. They've scored 11 goals without replying their first 2 matches. Ipswich have played against better teams, I think, but that one's not going to be easy, as it said.
No, a long way to go as well after a cup game tonight. So hopefully knock Norwich out tonight. They can go there and see if they can keep their 100% winning run to the season going, because they've started really well, haven't they? Hashtag and Oxford are 2 very difficult games in the first 2. So to get results there is excellent, and hopefully they can keep it going. I presume that Exeter might be riding a bit of a crest after the promotion, and hopefully the girls can go down there and knock them off the perch a little bit.
Right then, let's talk about Fulham, Seb. 3rd successive season back at this level. No relegation issues in the last couple of years. They're kind of the model for promoted clubs to follow in many ways. Smart player trading in recent years has seen them established as a mid-table Premier League club. They've had some exciting young English players, and they've had a smattering of international talent in there as well. They're 10th at the moment with 3 points. They were bit unlucky, I thought, on the opening night of the Premier League season to lose against Manchester United. But then they followed it up with an impressive victory over Leicester at the weekend, and Emil Smith-Rowe is up and running as well.
What a player. Yeah, I guess they've kind of become one of the poster childs for newly promoted sides now, haven't they? We always refer to Brighton as the absolute kind of club that you want to replicate. Brentford are always in the conversation as well. But I think Fulham, given what they've done over the last couple of years in terms of the on-field, the developments in the playing squad, what a settled manager can bring you, I think they've very much now joined that conversation of being the ones you want to follow. I missed the Man United game. I was driving back that night, the night before the Liverpool home game. So I missed that one, but by all accounts, yes, they were unlucky at Old Trafford. It was a very late goal, wasn't it? Was it past the 85th minute? Was it Xerxes got the winner for United? So yeah, they were unlucky that night, and then, as you say, followed it up with a 2-1 victory over Fulham last weekend.
Leicester.
And yeah, I guess Leicester, sorry, yeah, and yeah, I guess can you have a big game in game week 3 of a season? I've seen some stuff on social media, people kind of saying this is where the season begins, 3 points against Fulham and we're up and running. And I'm normally the optimistic one on this podcast. Rich is very much the pessimistic one, but I think this is going to be tough. I look at the quality in their squad, the signings they've made. Some of the names we'll reel off later, and I don't think this is going to be a gimme. I think this might be quite a tough game. But I've seen places, people on social media and stuff saying, it's a must-win already, and it can't be, can it? In week 3, surely.
I think it is a big game. I definitely wouldn't call it a must-win, because in many ways it's more about avoiding defeat and putting in a decent performance after those 2 defeats, because then you can just put those Man City and Liverpool defeats aside and say, look, we've been a match for a decent established Premier League team. It's definitely not a must-win at this stage, because there's quite a few teams that are pointless, and we won't be the only ones that end the weekend pointless if we fail to win. That's not a fact, but that's my opinion anyway. But it's definitely a big game because of that international break for me, Seb. That lingering 2 weeks without a game, and yeah, I just feel like if we go into that with 0 points, then we're going to be written off by even more people. But I think a few of us might start to doubt that we've done everything in the right way.
I think ITFC Dan in the chat made a great point, saying it's important not to lose it. It's not a must-win game, but perhaps it's teetering on the precipice of being a must-not-lose game. Like you say, if you go into the international break with 0 points and the clubs around us do pick up points this weekend, then suddenly it becomes a very long 2 weeks before the trip to Brighton, doesn't it? So, yeah, a point will kind of get us off the mark nicely. 3 points obviously would be fantastic, but they are a decent side, like you just said. They finished 10th in their first season back from the Championship. They finished 13th last season. They were 21 points clear of the bottom 3, so there were no relegation issues whatsoever. They got to the League Cup semi-final. They lost to eventual winners Liverpool across 2 legs in January, so they kind of put together a bit of a decent cup run as well. Some of their top goal scorers, Rodrigo Munoz got 9. Weirdly, he got all the goals between like February and April, and kind of scored went on a bit of a run during that period. Raul Jimenez signed from Wolves, 7 goals, and Bobby Decordova Reid, who since moved on, he's moved to Leicester, who they played last weekend. He got 6 as well. Andres Pereira signed from Man United, top assists with 7. Harry Wilson got 6, and Anthony Robinson, the left back, got 6 as well. And yeah, I guess they've kind of moved. I mean, anything can happen in the season, but they're not really mentioned in much of the relegation talk. They're very much seen now as kind of an established mid-table side. And I would suggest they're probably looking upwards rather than downwards now, aren't they? They'll be looking to make that next move. What do you think the ceiling for a club like Fulham is, given the, how the Premier League kind of sits these days? Are they a club that, with a bit more, a bit smarter recruitment, they're very good at recruitment, if they can recruit, continue their impressive recruitment, could they maybe push for a Europa kind of conference space and maybe have a bit of a cup run? Do you think that's realistic for them?
Yeah, I think it's definitely realistic. I think they're maybe a little bit light in the number 9 position. I think Munoz, as you say, had a bit of a purple patch last season, but that was in quite a condensed part of the season. And then Raul Jimenez, jury's kind of out for him with a lot of Fulham fans. I'm not sure that they've got quite enough firepower, but they'll probably be looking at the cup competitions if they can get to January and be safely in mid-table and not have to even worry about relegation. Then yeah, maybe they're one of those teams like what we were expecting Crystal Palace to be this year, and what West Ham have been in previous seasons, where they can try and creep into that Europa Conference League spot, or maybe go all the way in one of the cup competitions. But yeah, they're quite an impressive outfit at the moment, I think.
And you say an impressive outfit. I think they've got an impressive manager as well. I'm quite a big fan of Marco Silva. He's entering his 4th season in charge of the club. Had massive links, didn't he, with Saudi last summer, when Saudi clubs are going nuts and throwing all that money at the Premier League. They took Mitrovic off them, who was their main, number 9, and scored over 40 goals in the Championship promotion season. And there were rumours, weren't there, that Marco Silva would be going to Saudi to kind of take up a managerial position there, but he stayed, turned them down. He took over in the summer of 2021. He won the Championship. Only 90 points to win the Championship that season, which sounds absolutely crazy, doesn't it, given what we went through last season? But it was a bit of a cheat code, wasn't it? They had, Fabio Carvalho, Harry Wilson. Like I said, Mitrovic got over 40 goals. So it was a bit of a cheat code. But fair play to him for stepping down a level. He's known for his time at Hull. He joined Hull, didn't he, in 2017, and won a lot of plaudits, but they did ultimately go down that season. Then he went to Watford, and there was this weird thing, wasn't there, where Everton kind of made it quite clear they wanted him, made an approach for him. Watford said no, and then they dismissed him. And then a few months later, he rocked up at Everton, and they ended up having to pay £4 million compensation, even though Watford had sacked him. So not sure what went on there. Strange one. But a pretty poor 18 months at Everton as well. He ended with them in the relegation zone and moved on. Okay, Everton are a bit of a basket case of a club, but he took the decision to move down to the Championship. Given the caliber and the size of the clubs he'd managed, it might have been quite easy for him to to kind of sit around and wait for a Premier League job to come up. But he took the step down, did really well, and I guess he's now kind of reaping the rewards of that, with kind of establishing Fulham as a kind of a top half side, and maybe he'll have one eye on a top 6 job at some point in his future. But right now, I think he's doing a pretty good job, and I think he's an excellent manager.
He is indeed, and he's a weird one, really, because when he came back to Fulham, when he ended up at Fulham, I think a few people are like, yeah, he's maybe lucky to have got that job. But now he's reached that level where now you're thinking Fulham will do well to keep hold of him, right?
Yeah, and like I say, if you look at the work he did, Hull went down, he won some plaudits, but they did go down. Watford, they dismissed him. Everton dismissed him. His actual record of achievement wasn't great at all. But as you say now, there might well be clubs. I don't remember any links this summer that I remember reading, but I'm sure a fair few clubs will have him on their radar if they were to make managerial changes. I quite like the fact he turned down the Saudi money, decided to stay. I guess that would be very, very tempting given the riches on offer if you make a move out there. But I quite like the fact he's hung around, and yeah, I think if like a West Ham, for example, if Lopetegui doesn't work out, I could see a club like West Ham potentially going in for him. Spurs, maybe. If Postecoglou doesn't work out, again, that the caliber of club, maybe they'd be one who could perhaps look to tempt him based on the excellent body of work that he's putting together so far at Fulham.
Yeah, and Fulham, no such problems for them in the Carabao Cup this week. They went to League One Birmingham City the other night, didn't they? And they eased through, didn't they?
Yeah, they won 2-0. They made 11 changes. So I've not really looked in depth at that game because the squad will all change back. I saw Jay Stansfield scored against Birmingham, having spent so long there last season on loan. Obviously, that flirtation a little bit with us in the January window. So I saw he got a goal for them. But it was 11 changes from the league side. Last weekend, they won 2-1 at home to Leicester. Emil Smith-Rowe opened the scoring. Lovely goal, kind of burst forward from the left-hand attacking position, just lifts the ball over the keeper. Alex Iwobi got the second. Both those goals kind of came down Fulham's left. We'll discuss their style of play in a minute. They were good value for it. 1.78 XG to Leicester's 0.61. Hello for the first time of the season, all you XG fans in the chat. 54% possession, 18 shots, and yeah, a pretty decent performance that gets them up and running for the season.
Yeah, and you've mentioned some of these players, but I was a little bit worried about Fulham going into this season because they lost João Paulinho. That's £47 million. £47 million that they got for him when he went to Bayern. Tosin Adarabioyo went to Chelsea. Decordova-Reid, who I thought was quite an important squad player for Fulham, been there quite a long time, moved over to Leicester. Tim Ream, the American centre-back, moved back home. And Willian, who was a really successful player for them in the last couple of years, was released as well. And I was kind of looking at it, and they got Ryan Sessegnon in on a free from Fulham pretty quickly. And then Emil Smith-Rowe came for pretty big money from Arsenal. What was that? 30 million?
Yeah, about £30 million, wasn't it? Do you remember at the start of the summer we were linked with him and Eddie Nketiah in a £60 million double deal, and some people thought that might actually happen. They were funny times, weren't they?
They were indeed. But I was kind of looking at that and thinking, well, Smith-Rowe may turn out to be a great signing, but he's had his fitness issues and he hasn't played an awful lot of football the last couple of years. So I wondered about them. But then in the last couple of weeks, they've made a couple of pretty shrewd signings, haven't they?
They have, yeah. So you mentioned Paulinho moving to Bayern Munich. That was always going to happen, I think, wasn't it? Was it deadline day last summer when it fell through at the very last minute? Yeah. And he signed a new contract, but I presume it was very, very much done with a gentleman's agreement that come next summer you can move on. So I guess they've had almost a year to plan for that departure. They've re-signed Joachim Andersen from Palace, £26 million centre-back. We'll discuss him later because he kind of fits in quite nicely to how they like to play out from the back. Sander Berge has come in presumably to add a bit of physicality and maybe replace that kind of deeper lying playmaker role that Paulinho was playing. He might be maybe a little bit more progressive with his forward passing, so he could be one there. They look to kind of get in and get up to speed quite quickly. Sasa Lucic's been playing that kind of deeper role in the first two games of the season, but 20 million quid on a signing Sander Berge, you'd expect him to come in fairly quickly. And as you said, they brought back Ryan Sessegnon again. Again, we were linked with them, I'm sure, at the start of the window when we were trying to work out who would kind of provide a bit of cover for Leif Davis. So they brought him back as well. So they've lost a bit of experience. Willian, Tim Ream, Bobby Decordova-Reid. They have seen a bit of experience move out the door, but the likes of, Sander Berge had a couple of years in the Premier League, hasn't he? Anderson, obviously at Palace and at Fulham previously. They have gone. Smith-Rowe, like you say, hasn't played much in recent years, but he's still an absolute top draw player. So I guess they're trying to kind of replace the elder statesmen that have departed with kind of players they can look to develop. And if you can get a Smith-Rowe firing for 2 to 3 years, you've probably doubled your money, haven't you? You've got a 55, 60 million pound player who potentially might move on again, and they will then look to reinvest like they have done so far. They've made 100 million quid in the last couple of summers with the Mitrovic money from Saudi and the Paulinho money from Bayern. So they are very much a side that kind of sells at the appropriate time, sells quite well, and then looks to reinvest that on kind of younger players they can develop and keep that cycle and keep that model going. And so far, you have to say it's worked really well, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely looks that way. They're just kind of solid, aren't they, Fulham? And they've got a pretty solid historical record against Ipswich as well. Talk to us about that.
They have, 14 wins for them, 9 wins for Ipswich, and 8 draws. Last time we played them, obviously, was last season. You referred to it at the start of this show. 3-1 defeat as they reached the League Cup quarter-finals. Not a great night for Christian Walton, I seem to remember, from what I watched last year. Goals from Harry Wilson, Rodrigo Muniz, and Tom Kearney. Elkin Baggett kind of headed home a Jack Taylor corner as a consolation. We did beat them the last time we faced them at Portman Road in the Premier League, January 2002. Marcus Bent scored in a 1-0 victory. We moved out of the bottom 3, and that was when we'd taken 18 points from the last 21 available. I think it was only a New Year's Day defeat at Charlton when we were 2-0 up. We lost 3-2 with them. That was the only blemish in that amazing run of form that spectacularly imploded. And now what I'm going to do here, I've not told you I'm going to do this. I do this for Rich quite a lot, and he really doesn't like it. I'm going to throw a lineup quiz at you for that day. How old were you in 2002, dare I ask? Were you going to Portman Road?
I was a season ticket holder, so I was there. I don't have the excuse that I wasn't there. I'd have been 10, 11, okay. 10.
Well, get involved in the chat as well. See how many of the starting 11 you can get. You've got Marcus Bent, the goal scorer, and I'll give you a hint. It looked to be a kind of a 3-5-2 formation with wing backs.
Okay. Alan Armstrong.
Yep, started up front with Marcus Bent.
Yeah, I remembered that because he was kind of involved with the goal. I can picture the goal. The goalkeeper always feels a bit risky. Sorry, I'm going Andy Marshall.
Yeah, it was Marshall, yeah.
Okay. Mark Venus.
Yep. Looks like he started in the back of the back 3.
Haridason.
Yep.
Clapham.
Yep. Are you cheating?
No.
Okay.
No.
Fair enough.
My recall of my childhood is pretty good. Okay. Matt Holland, obviously. Jim Agilton.
Yep. No Jim Agilton.
No Jim Agilton. Sixto Peralta.
Yep. Sixto Peralta. Yep. Joined with one more in central midfield.
Jermaine Wright.
So they never got an England call up, but probably should have done after the first season. Yep. So you've got the midfield, you've got the strikers, and you are missing the right back and the right-sided centre half.
John, have I said John McGrill?
No, not yet, but yeah, he was the right-sided centre half. So just the right back to go.
Chris Makin.
Yeah, fair play to you. Well done. Yeah, excellent work. Much, much better than Rich. He normally gets about 3 or 4 and then starts to kind of lose interest and stuff. And
do you want me to do the Fulham team?
I'd be really impressed. That would be incredibly impressive if you can do that. There was actually, see if you can get a bonus point. See if you can get a bonus point. There was one player that started for Fulham that night that went on to represent us a few years later. Very classy midfielder. I really liked him. I think Magilton.
Sylvan Legwinski.
Sylvan Legwinski. Yes. Yeah. He was the one, yeah.
Nice. Thanks for that, Sam. I enjoyed that. And yeah, good to get one over on Rich as well. Let's hear from our sponsors now before you go into the nitty-gritty of Fulham. Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com. Yeah, Philip Blundell in the chat said that he was 19 for that game, and Gary Lovell said that he was 43. But yeah, fairly happy times, weren't they, when we thought that we were going back onto another European tour. I mean, we ended up, we kind of did go on a European tour the following season, didn't we? But yeah, back to 2024 then. Talk to us about the formation that Fulham plays, Seb, because it seems to be the same one that everybody else plays these days.
It is, yeah. It was quite nice last week talking about Man City and explaining how they'll basically be a 2-3-5 in attack. Fulham are a 4-2-3-1, pretty much what we saw for most of last season. It's developed a little bit with the signing of Emil Smith-Rowe. He's playing in the 10 at the moment. Lone striker. Fullbacks like to get forward. They like their crosses. 3rd highest for accurate crosses per game with 6. They're not amazing at pressing. 4th lowest pressers last season, which surprised me a little bit with the likes of Iwobi in the side, because I kind of associate him with brilliant pressing from his time kind of at Everton and Arsenal, but they're pretty poor for pressing. They play out from the back like most Premier League sides do these days. Joachim Andersen, who they've re-signed, finished last season with an average of 70 touches per game and a passing accuracy of 90% in his own half. So that might be why they've looked to bring him back and kind of develop their building from the back. We've discussed some of the key players. We've discussed Emil Smith-Rowe, opened his account last weekend. Lovely, classy player. We've discussed Muñez, yet to get off the mark this season. Should have had a couple really against Leicester. Put a header just wide at the back post from a Robinson cross. So perhaps he'll be looking to get off the mark this coming weekend. Alex Iwobi, I've just mentioned, is currently playing on the left of the three behind the striker. As I said, excellent presser. He'll run all day for you. Can play deeper as an 8 as well, but he's currently filling in that left-sided role. Paul Leaf-Davis, he had Mo Salah in week 1. He had Savinho last week, and this week he's got Adama Traore, who will be absolutely slathered in baby oil and is ridiculously fast. He's had a bit of criticism for kind of end product. He's used much more in the last couple of years as a substitute, but he has started both games this season. Is likely to be on the right-hand side. He got an assist for Emil Smith-Rowe's goal last weekend, so off the mark, up and running. And yeah, Paul Leaf-Davis might have to have his head on a swivel for that one. I'm a big fan of Anthony Robinson, the left back. It's only from Wigan, I think. Likes to get forward. If you haven't seen his amazing Jedi mind trick TikTok, Twitter video, make sure you look it up. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely brilliant. So he's been linked with Liverpool in the past as well. I think they had one eye on him looking to replace Andy Robertson, perhaps. So maybe one that will move on and they'll get a big fee for this coming summer. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his. Andres Pereira, we discussed, for 7 assists last season, kind of moved more into a deeper lying midfield position this year with the arrival of Smith-Rowe. Excellent at set pieces. Remember, he scored a winning goal against, not a winning goal, he scored a goal against us in a 3-0 defeat for Man United in that cup game where Mick played all the reserves.
Malachek.
Yes, yeah. Was it Chris Yeoworth as well? I think was his central.
Josh Yeoworth.
Yeah, central.
Yeah, against Wayne Rooney.
Yeah, good times. As I said earlier, Sasha Lukic has kind of filled that midfield role, the deeper line midfield role, but Sander Berge could well come in. And I'm a big fan of the goalkeeper. Bernd Leno, signed from Arsenal a couple of years ago, top quality keeper. I think he's one of the most underrated keepers in the league. Virtual ever-present since signing and has kept 18 clean sheets in the last 2 seasons. So they kind of have this policy, don't they, where they take squad players from the top 6 sides. So Emil Smith-Rowe, Leno, Pereira, they'll kind of get these players who maybe aren't quite good enough. Willian, yeah, they'll kind of get these players who aren't quite good enough for the top sides, and it's working really well for them. I think their recruitment is really, really smart. No noticeable injuries or suspensions to talk about. They're pretty much at full strength. So yeah, I'd expect Smith-Rowe in the 10, Traore down the right, Iwobi down the left, Lukic or Berge in the central midfield position alongside Pereira.
Yeah, and you mentioned Anderson, who I'm not sure if he'll start or not, but not only is he a nice play out from the back kind of defender, but he loves a diagonal ball. Absolutely loves the one. And I imagine after seeing what Kevin De Bruyne did against us last Saturday, that might be something that Marco Silva's looked at. And it's going to be Anderson trying to clip those balls in behind for Iwobi and Emil Smith-Rowe to run onto in behind either Johnson or Tuanzebe. So yeah, very much one to look out for, I think. Are there any absences or injuries, Seb, that we need to be aware of?
You've done it again. You did this last week on the Man City show.
You've already told me.
Yeah, good lad.
Yeah.
I have to call you out. If you call me out for my mistakes, I have to do the same thing. I'm afraid it's tit for tat.
Okay. So I want to know something interesting about Fulham then, Seb. As you've already told us the injuries and I didn't listen. Tell me your interesting facts about Fulham.
Well, I've got 2 bits for you. So not to alarm anybody, but they're currently unbeaten in their last 7 against us, 6 wins and a draw, which dates back to a 2-1 defeat for them back in December 2015 when Freddie Sears scored after about 15, 16 seconds or so. But the start I found that was quite interesting was last season they were very much a first half team. Their second half performances were pretty hopeless. They conceded 23 goals in the second half of away games last season, which was the 5th worst in the division. And their most vulnerable time seems to be between 50 and 60 minutes, where they conceded 6 last year and didn't score any without reply. So if it's 0-0 at half time, don't worry too much because we're guaranteed to score between 50 and 60 minutes. They are very much a first half side.
Okay, so it would be pre-substitutes then. So I'm going to push you, Seb. Who's going to open the scoring and in what minute?
We got it right last week. We said Schmodish, didn't we? So we did get it right. I fancied Delap to open his account, I think, in this game. I thought his penalty last night was excellently taken. I thought he was a bit lucky. He kind of went in with a forearm smash at one point on one of their players, and I thought the referee might.
It wasn't that bad.
Okay, it looked bad in real time on the telly, but I think Delap's going to get off the mark. And yeah, if we're going to go for that time period, I'm going to say it's going to happen in the 53rd minute of the game.
Okay, ITFC Dan says that's my bet sorted. Please don't place bets based on the opinions of people on the Blue Monday podcast because you will just lose money. However, kudos to you, Seb. You were spot on about who was going to score first last week. But then didn't somebody from the Blue Monday team predict the scoreline for Man City Ipswich?
They did. Fair play to you, and we'll come on to your prediction for this week. But yeah, you got a 4-1 last week, didn't you? That's what it turned out to be. So fair play to you.
Yeah, I think I went for Ipswich to beat Liverpool, though, which is another reminder of why you shouldn't bet based on things that people are saying on the Blue Monday podcast. Shall we chat about Ipswich then, Seb? I think this is going to be an exciting one, isn't it? What is it? 1:45. We now find out the team news. That still catches me out.
Yeah, we all forget, don't we? We sit there in the Greyhound and we wait, and then suddenly you get it 15 minutes earlier. Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It's going to be an exciting one because there's so many possibilities, isn't there? I mean, you saw the 6 debutants last night. Did anybody stand out for you that you think will go straight into the starting 11 for Saturday's game? Did anyone? Jack Clark was the one I thought caught the eye at times, and like I said, Kiyuste started well. But then if you've signed Calvin Phillips, you don't sign him to sit on the bench, I don't think, do you? So. What do you think we'll do from the debutants that started last night's game?
Yeah, I think it will. I think there's a good chance that Tuanzebe plays at right back because I don't think that Ben Johnson's had the best start to his Ipswich Town career, and obviously they're going to be defending against Iwobi and Emil Smith Rowe a lot of the time in that channel. So it might be that Tuanzebe is the stronger of the two for the one-on-one defending. But I haven't answered your question there, have I? You've asked me about the debutants. I think Jack Clark may well get the nod in that left channel with Amari Hutchinson back on the right with Schmodix back in the 10. I wouldn't be against Luongo getting another chance in central midfield. I know I mentioned it earlier because I'm just not sure that Kiyuste and Phillips have had enough game time, and I'm not sure whether their performances in the game against Wimbledon warrants throwing them straight in when we haven't seen. Obviously, Luongo has had this 2 starts against Liverpool and Manchester City, and he's maybe looked a little bit shy of the level required. But he's been such a good player for us over the last couple of years. And let's face it, Fulham, although we're bigging them up, they're not Liverpool or Manchester City. So I wouldn't be too disappointed to see Luongo keep his place alongside Morsey. I feel like it will be Calvin Phillips if it is one of those two, though.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I don't think you sign Calvin Phillips and keep him on the bench. I think he'll come in alongside Morsey. This time last week, you asked me for my lineup, and I stupidly said Burgess instead of Greaves, and it got picked up a bit on social media afterwards. So apologies for that one. I think Greaves obviously comes back into the side. Wolfenden, are you starting Wolfenden alongside him? Probably a bit too early for O'Shea.
Yeah, that is the one for me. I'm not convinced that O'Shea is any more physical than Luke Wolfenden, based on what I saw last night. And that is supposedly one of Wolfenden's weaknesses. And I think Wolfenden has played well in the first 2 games against Liverpool and Manchester City. And I think it would be harsh. I know this is a harsh world that we're living in, but I would keep him in there because if we overload the team with new players, it's going to be difficult to create the same patterns that of play that have brought us all this success over the last couple of years. So while you want a sprinkling of the new players, I'm not convinced that O'Shea is that much of a step up that he needs to just come straight in at centre back.
Fair enough. Yeah, I've got no issue if Wolfenden starts alongside Greaves. Davis is nailed on. I agree. Tuanzebe at right back. We're both saying Muric. I assume, even though he didn't have the best of debuts last weekend, I think that's a no-brainer given the.
Well, luckily, you've told us that Fulham don't press very well, so so Muric should be fine as long as he looked stiff to me last week. That was the first time I've seen him in the flesh, but he didn't look 100% fit. So hopefully he's had a restful week and has managed to get on that massage table and is now ready to strut his stuff at Portman Road on Saturday.
Yeah, I think he'll start and become crucial to the way we play. I'm going Phillips and Morsey in midfield. The 3 behind Delap, I think what you said is correct. I think he'll go Hutchinson on the right, Szmodic in the 10 and Jack Clark for me in that left-hand kind of channel. I thought he looked really good at times last night. His ability to kind of drift past a man and open up the angles on his right foot could be really important. And Delap through the middle, and then we'll see the finishers. I guess we'll hopefully have a new striker on the bench to give Delap a bit of breathing space at 65, 70 minutes after he's opened the scoring in the 53rd minute. And then, Ogbene presumably off the bench to add some pace. Johnson is a useful substitute. Kayuste if Phillips can't make past kind of 60 or 70 minutes. And then we've got 2 weeks. I know we'll have some players going off on international duty, but then we'll have 2 weeks with hopefully the settled squad, the new number 9 through the door, and McKenna can really get into them before Brighton away. So I don't think we're going to be a million miles away with either of those lineups. So, but you do think it'll be Luongo? Do you think Luongo and Morsey is the likely starting?
I probably wouldn't go that far. That's probably what I would do. Okay. But Kieran McKenna. He's his own man, Seb. He doesn't listen to. I don't think he listens to what we say on the pre-match show. He didn't start Burgess at Manchester City, did he? So,
but what could have been? We might have got the result if he had. There you go.
Who knows? Yeah, harsh on Greaves. But yeah. Muric. We probably need to speak a little bit about Muric, don't we? Because that wasn't a great debut for him, was it? And I think there was a few of us sort of scratching our heads thinking, why has he sort of brought him in here against Manchester City and tried to play out from the back? Because we didn't play out from the back with Walton against Liverpool, did we?
No, noticeably against Liverpool, we went long on many occasions. Walton's big left foot would swing through and they'd push for Delap to win his aerial challenges against Kwanzaa. And that was really successful to the point that Kwanzaa got subbed at half-time, didn't he? They've got Calvin Bassey as their left-sided centre-half, who is a bit of a unit. So Delap might have his hands full there in terms of a physical battle. So that could be an option they kind of look at again. Fulham don't press amazingly, but yeah, it was just a bit of a nightmare debut for him, wasn't it? Obviously at fault, without doubt, for the second one. Daly's too long. There's no opportunity to pass it to Greaves. There's no opportunity to pass it to Wolfenden. He has to go long in that instance, and he doesn't and gets caught out. And then the second one, he has the rush of blood. He rushes out, but I blame our defensive line more for that one. Wolfenden's really deep compared to Greaves. It's a world-class ball over the top from De Bruyne. It's a world-class striker in Erling Haaland getting on the end of it. So yes, he runs out on that one, but I don't hold him too accountable. Made that really good save, we must remember, in the second half.
He did make one good save, yeah.
Yeah, the ball in from De Bruyne and Haaland's header and a really good kind of acrobatic tip over the bar. So we have to give him the plaudits for that one if we're going to criticise him for the first two. But when he signed, we knew this is what we were getting, didn't we? We knew that he would cost us, 5-6 goals a season. It's just unfortunate for him. He's had definitely one, arguably two on his debut. And somebody said it in Telegram, I think, that Vass had these issues as well, but he had a lot more credit in the bank because it didn't really happen until Watford away, did it? And, at that point, we've loved what we've seen for the previous 4 or 5 months. So it's going to be he's at Portman Road. He's not facing the quality of Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Silvinho, etc. So it's not going to be as tough, and hopefully he can keep ideally a clean sheet would be ideal and go into the international break full of confidence.
Sure. Joe Cook says he hopes Muric comes good, as he's a bit jealous of Southampton getting Ramsdale. I think we were linked with Ramsdale earlier on in the window, Seb, but it's one that didn't happen, and now he's ended up at Southampton. Are you a little bit disappointed we've missed out on him?
I really like him as a keeper, but will that be his third relegation if he goes down? Because he went down with Bournemouth and Sheffield United. So strange to want to get 3 relegations on your CV. Of course, look, we'd have loved him. He's an absolute top quality goalkeeper. But I'd imagine his wages, and I don't know what fee they've paid for him, but I'd imagine his wages will probably be beyond us. And yeah, if he's not good enough for Mikel Arteta, he's not good enough for Kieran McKenna.
Very nice. That rhymes as well. Tim Wyndham, this is a good point. He says, without Burns, it was much harder to play it long because he was winning everything in the air against Robertson. I guess, we didn't have that outball. Maybe with Ogbene playing, if he plays off the right, that might give us more opportunities to play that longer diagonal kick. But I think Muric loves to play it short, doesn't he?
Yeah, and perhaps if we have Delap out there on the wing, if we sign a number 9 and Delap starts making a few appearances at wide right, then that could be like the old days with a Johnny Walters, a big raking long field kick from the keeper for Delap to kind of get his head on the end of it. But most of the time it will be playing, like you said, playing short. Morsey will drop deep, Calvin Phillips will drop deep, they'll pick up the ball, they'll look to turn like we've seen so many times, and that's what we will look to do. It's just that we've not really been able to do it for the last 2 games because of the caliber of opposition. But I would think against Fulham we will start to see that more and more, especially given their kind of hesitancy to press us.
Indeed. And here's another thing that we've seen quite a lot over the last couple of years, and that's a €10 super sticker from David Bergen. Thank you for joining us, David. I hope you're doing well over in Ireland and planning your next trip over to Portman Road. Thank you very much for joining us. Right, Seb, we probably need to talk about FPL, don't we? So let's get into that with this nice bumper. So this is the Fantasy Premier League section of the Prematch Show. That is with thanks to our partners, Brett Vale Golf Club, a stunning 18-hole golf course in the heart of Constable Country, just south of Ipswich. Head to brettvale.golf.co.uk for more info. So, Seb, how are we going to start this one? What do you want to talk about from your FPL exploits from last week?
I'm not happy with it. I raised it last week and said it was disloyal to Captain Haaland in the week he plays against Ipswich. And he did that. And yeah, he's had a good week and he's caught me right up. He got 82 points last week. I got 67. I'm still ahead, but only by 3 points now. I was sitting there on Sunday watching the Bournemouth Newcastle game, willing Anthony Gordon and Isak to do something, and then thankfully Cole Palmer decided to get 3 assists and a goal away at Wolves, which really helped me. But yeah, he's taken advantage of a player doing well against Ipswich, which I think should be struck from the record, but it won't be. I got more ITFC bonus points last week. I got 4, he got 2, but he won the week overall, 84-71, and is closing me down, so I could do with a half-decent week this week. That said, I've not actually changed my team again for the 3rd week running. I'm going to give Isak one last chance, but I have dropped him as chance. I've dropped him as captain. I've made Cole Palmer captain this week. They got Palace at home for Chelsea, so I've changed my captaincy. But yeah, I've kept Davis on the bench. That might be a mistake, perhaps, if we keep a clean sheet and maybe he looks to get an assist. I've still kept Amari in midfield, and I've still kept Delap up front with my prediction that he will score for us at the weekend. But after this weekend, I think I might be making some changes for the international break. I think he's made a couple. Have you got his team? I think he's made a couple of changes, hasn't he? He's retained obviously Haaland as his captain. Boo. He's brought in Savinho. So again, he's kind of taking advantage of a player doing well against Ipswich, which isn't really cricket in my book. And I don't know what else he's done. I think he's done something else, but it's not jumping out to me. So we will wait and see what happens. I've still got a slight 3-point lead, but hopefully I can extend that going into the international break and we can reset and look at our squads a bit. Well, what we'll do is we'll tweet out a few guys in the chat are asking for the code. I'll get Rich to retweet it. Forgive me, I don't actually know it. He does all that kind of stuff, so I will get him to retweet it from the main Blue Monday account. Just keep an eye on it, sort of across the next couple of days or so.
Devano says he got rid of Nkunku and got Schmodics in. I mean, that's just an upgrade in many ways. That's an absolute steal. And yeah, Irvin says get Schmodics in there. Absolutely.
But I can't drop Amari. I don't want to drop Amari because I think across the season, Amari is going to be kind of, the star man. And much as I love Ipswich, I don't really want to have 2 Ipswich Town midfielders in the squad because I'm sacrificing one of Saka, Cole Palmer, or Anthony Gordon then. So yeah, I will look at it in the 2 weeks after the international break. And the 5 transfers rule really helps now. I think I'll be up to 3 after this weekend, so I can look to do a little bit of jiggery pokery and try and retain my lead.
Excellent. Good luck to you, Seb. And for those of you that have joined the pre-match league and aren't maybe playing it in the exact same way as Seb and Rich with all of the funny rules about Ipswich players and players of Ipswich connections, this is what the top 5 looks like after 2 match rounds. So Kieran Bleasby is in 5th. Neil Wilmore is in 4th. He's with us tonight, isn't he? Adam Furman-Smith is 3rd. But Jacob Powley's team have been overhauled by Waka Waka FC. That's Grant Salisbury's team. 87 points last week, 150. That is decent after 2 match rounds. But yeah, it was a very high scoring match round last week. Look at us talking about Fantasy Premier League. Isn't it
great, isn't it? Isn't it great to suddenly be relevant and kind of suddenly be able to be in these conversations after years of being a million miles away from it?
Excellent. And I'm going to give a quick plug to my Premier League prediction show that I did with Ben. That's on the Benjamin Bloom Football channel and also on the Blue Monday podcast channel. I went for an Ipswich Town victory again for the second week out of three. I went for a 3-2 win, Seb. That's something that happened quite a lot last season. I can't remember if you've done your prediction or not. You've told us when Ipswich are going to score. Have you given us your full
I'll be
match
honest,
prediction?
I'm really torn. I don't know whether I should go with my heart or my head. We all did our first, was it our top six, the first 6 games of the season. Every Blue Monday contributor and host, obviously, we submitted that, didn't we? And it was talked about on one of the pre-season shows. And I think we all, maybe apart from Ben, I think put down a win for this game. If I go with my heart, I think we'll win 2-1. They don't score that many goals away from home. They didn't score at Old Trafford, obviously. I think they only got 24 or 25 in the league away from home last season. So they're not overly prolific away from home, but I do just fancy that bit of quality they've got with Smith Rowe, etc., and Robinson at left back. I kind of fancy them maybe to get a goal. So I will go with my heart, which says a 2-1 victory, but my head says a 1-1 draw. But either way, we'll be off the mark going into the international break. We won't be on 0 points. So I'll go with the 2-1. I'll be optimistic. 2-1, Delap to open the scoring, and we're up and running before the international break.
It's good to hear you. You're so confident that we're not going to lose. You didn't even mention that there. Let's plug a couple of our other sponsors here. One Stop Badges. There's a 10% promo for Blue Monday subscribers. If you click on the link in the YouTube or the podcast description, you can join us for more scintillating pre-match chat, or you can talk about fantasy Premier League or cricket or whatever you like on our Telegram group. There's still an offer on there. I think you can join for a week for free, and then you have to start paying a small amount each month. And there's Devano still in the chat asking for the league code. That will be shared in the Telegram group. Get yourself over to there, and then we can share it with you there. There's going to be a transfer deadline day show. That's Rich and Joe, not Craig and Joe. I think I said it was Craig and Joe earlier, didn't I?
Yeah, Craig's busy, so Rich is going to put on he's going to pretend he enjoys transfers, which he hates.
Yeah.
But I presume he'll be happy because it's ending, so I presume that's why he's volunteered to do it. So yeah, Rich and Joe tomorrow night. I think they're starting at 8:30. Is it 8 o'clock? We'll tweet it out on the socials. It'll be an hour or so, or an hour and a half before the window closes. Hopefully, there's some business done during the day, and if not, join them hopefully in real time to react to whichever number 9 decides to walk through the door.
Wonderful, and we're looking forward to 1:45 on Saturday and finding out the Ipswich lineup for the Fulham game. You're going to have to wait until Sunday night to find out who's on the flagship show. Speaking about our 2-1 win over Fulham with a goal for Liam Delap in the, remind me, 53rd minute?
Yeah, why not? If that happens, this is the clip that's going out. We will look like absolute geniuses.
Wonderful. And as I mentioned earlier, you can check out Ben and I's predictions for the whole of the Premier League over on Benjamin Bloom Football channel or on the Blue Monday channel as well. And for those interested in joining the Blue Monday pre-match show fantasy Premier League challenge, these are the rules, and there is the code, Seb. It turns out we had it all along. Do you want to read that out?
Yeah, so the pre-match league code is 35SMAE, and we have a separate Blue Monday league as well, which is CU0IKK. So yeah, on the screen there, but I'll still see if I can get Rich to tweet them out just so people can see them on socials and join in.
Wonderful. And if you like free stuff, well, it's not free, but if you like winning stuff and you like Ipswich Town merchandise, check this out. You can win a signed Town shirt. The lovely people at Football Prizes have got hold of a signed shirt from this season. They've somehow already got hold of one. They'll be raffling it off at the end of the month, and it's just £3.95 for a ticket, and you can get involved at footballprizes.co.uk/product/Ipswich-debut. And there's also 14 instant win prizes, including a Sam Morsey signed and framed Ipswich Town shirt. Who wouldn't want one of them? Seb, thank you very much for guiding me through. I'm probably going to be cast out into the reserves now for the next few weeks. This might be my last pre-match show of the season, but it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you to everyone in the chat. I'm going to just quickly get to a couple of the comments that we've missed. Luke Boone said he's worried about Fulham. Think people are underestimating them based on their relative weaknesses compared to the last 2 league games. I think we've kind of covered, Seb, that you really rate Fulham, don't you?
I do. I think they're just a really solid, impressive Premier League side. And I think, we have to remember that we've spent 2 years just effectively swatting aside anyone that comes to Portman Road, but that's not going to be the case this year. I think they're dangerous. I think they've got players who can hit you quickly on the break with quality and pace. And we will have to be at our very best like we will week in, week out. But McKenna will have a game plan. He'll know exactly what to do to target their weaknesses. And hopefully at 5 o'clock on Saturday, we come out on the right side of it.
Dr. Zach King says Fulham are pretty good, and I think we'll need a few good training sessions in. Not an easy one. Clark looked good, and Johnson too, and he liked Ogbene. Neil Wilmore's going for 2-2. I think that's what Benjamin Bloom went for. Michael Warner thinks that we're going to lose 3-2. Ball over the top to catch us out. Davis to give away another penalty. Blimey, Michael. All of that sunshine in Brisbane, and you're still raining on our parade here. Neil Wilmore says, Rich to let off party poopers when the window slams shut. Haven't had any score updates yet. I think that it was 0-0 at Carrot Road the last time we heard.
Yeah, I think I've not had anything either. So I think it's still, but somebody's put in our Telegram group saying it's coming. So I would presume that we are on top and hopefully we'll take advantage of that.
Excellent. So Seb, you're confident that this is the weekend that Ipswich get their first Premier League win since returning to the league. Well, you said that your heart is going for an Ipswich win at least. See the show out then.
I'll go with my heart. Yeah, 2-1 victory to get us off the mark going into the international break. New signings to come in. Hopefully a new striker to arrive tomorrow to lift everyone slightly. He'll make an appearance off the bench in the number 9 shirt at the weekend. And yeah, like I said in previous weeks, enjoy it. It's not the glitter and the glamour of Liverpool and Man City, but this is where it starts to get a little bit real, and we can now start to hopefully get points on the board to see us safe. Make Portman Road intimidating. Make it loud. I wish I was going. I can't make it. Make it loud. Make it a horrible place for the opposition to come. Let's have that first half atmosphere that we enjoyed so well against Liverpool. Get yourselves to the Greyhound. I'm sure you'll see several of the Blue Monday team in there pre-match. And as always, come on, you Blues.